Hey, it's Tepac, and I'm back in Katawa Shoujo after a very long break I had. Also, forgot to upload my contrast stuff. I mean, I had it, but then my internet speeds were so slow, and it was a big file, and I was like, eh. So yeah, I'll do that sometime this week. But as for now, we're back in Katawa Shoujo. And the current scene is guess who's coming. Never mind. Whoa, you made enough to feed an army in here. Is it too much? Well, you can always take some leftovers with you when you go. That sounds great. I can only handle cafeteria food for so long. Something home-cooked would be a welcome change of pace. Okay. Hopefully my mouse will stay now. What he said. Thanks, Mom. The food tastes as good as it smells, and there's a lull in the conversation while we dig in. How the heck did my mouse get up there? Stay. No. There. Emmy assaults her plate with the usual amount of gusto, and while I admit that I set a pretty fast pace myself. So Hisao, I hear that you and my daughter have gotten rather close, The urge to say something like, not really, is so strong that I open my mouth to say it, but then reassert control. We are close, there's no getting around it. I mean, Emmy's brought me here, hasn't she? Fortunately, both Emmy and her mother seem to take my reaction as a sign that I'm caught off guard rather than considering saying something cruel. I suppose we have. I blame the morning runs myself. You make it sound like a bad thing, Hisao. Well, I for one found it a relief. Why's that? Emmy's always been a popular girl, but never made any close friends. This is a bit of news to me. I've always seen Emmy chatting with her classmates in the hallways. And certainly the whole track team seems to love her, but it is true that she chooses to isolate herself during lunch with Rin and me. Not exactly the sort of behavior one expects from a popular girl, after all. Then again, I've experienced her unwillingness to get close firsthand, so I can't say that I'm surprised. I was beginning to have my doubts. Emmy rolls her eyes to the ceiling and grumbles something I can't quite make out. Huh? What? What's that you just said? Nothing. Miss Ibarazaki chokes on her drink with laughter. You've been hanging out with the nurse too long, Emmy. I'm going to have to talk to him about corrupting my daughter. Somehow I don't think that would be very effective. I've learned most of it from you anyway, not the nurse. Don't listen to her, Hisao. She's a born liar. Yeah, right. Oh, I don't know, Emmy. I think your mother has a point. What? You traitor, you're supposed to take my side in this. Yeah, but you did lie about your leg after the meet out. A kick in the shins from an unmistakably plastic foot cuts me off, but not before Mrs. Ibarazaki's eyebrows shoots upwards. What about your leg? It wasn't a big deal, that's all. I was just in a wheelchair for a bit. The last few mumbled words are quickly deciphered by Emmy's mother. I suspected she had experience with this sort of thing, and a worried frown appears on her face. So that's why you kept dodging my calls. Oh, Emmy, I know how much you hate being in a wheelchair. No wonder you've been in such a mood lately. Yeah, she's much happier on her feet, so to speak. Well, of course, she spent enough time in the chair just after the accident. She didn't get prosthetics immediately? No, she had to finish healing up before they'd let her start on the sort of therapy that you've got to go through to adjust to those things. Especially since she wanted to run on them. I had no idea. Yeah, it sucked. Oh, did you see Rin's mural at the festival? Emmy's sudden change of topic makes me realize belatedly that she's been fidgeting the whole time her mother and I have been talking. I should have figured on her being a little skittish when it comes to talking about the accident, even around her mother. No, I didn't make it out to the festival, remember? Although I caught a glimpse of it at your track meet, it seemed pretty weird to me. I think it's more or less what she was going for. She talked a lot about it being dreamlike, or trying to make it dreamlike. Rin's art is one of those things I don't think I'll ever understand. That's not surprising. I don't think Rin expects to be understood. She told me once that her art allows people to understand stuff they wouldn't understand otherwise. But all the same, she doesn't think it actually works that way. I'm surprised that Emmy's talked about this with Rin extensively enough to actually have Rin's opinion, such as it is. Although I expect that Rin could not, if she were so inclined, say the same thing about Emmy's. How is my mouse moving? I'm not even touching you. Now I'm touching you, trying to get you back off screen. There. Unless, of course, Emmy is purposely keeping me in the dark about everything, which is likely, but unpleasant to think about. I drift down this unpleasant train of thought for a while, losing track of the conversation. Hey, Emmy, I've been meaning to ask. Huh? Are you going to visit your father this year? From the way she says it, you'd think Emmy's mother was talking about the weather. From the way Emmy reacts, it's clearly not the weather they're talking about. She flinches, a slight jerk of the head backwards as if she's just been slapped in the face. Can we talk about this later? Her voice sounds brittle, strange, strained. It looks as if she's been severely shaken by the question. It seems that Mrs. Ibarozaki misjudged how close Emmy and I are. Some things, it seems, are best not conversed about with me around. Her father is one of these things. Okay, seriously, Mouse. The accident that took her legs is probably another one of those things, and if her reaction to the earlier conversation between her mother and myself is any indication, it doesn't take Emmy's mother long to realize she's screwed up. Of course we can, dear. I'm sorry to bring it up. I just wanted to ask so I could make plans. It's fine, don't worry about it. Emmy fidgets nervously as if embarrassed by her own reaction. I confess that her reaction is confusing. She only just mentioned her father to me earlier today, less than a few hours ago even. But it is a simple question about when she'll visit her father caused such a strong reaction, because her father's dead. Most likely that's the reason. Unless whatever serenity she claimed to have reached by means of our talk, the previous evening has suddenly evaporated, or didn't help as much as she thought, or claimed. I'll be right back. Gotta visit the little girl's room. Emmy gets up suddenly and leaves the table, leaving me and Mrs. Ibarozaki alone. I'm a little conflicted. Should I go after her, or should I stay here? It's obvious that Emmy's departure was not based on the call of nature. Something's bothering her, and I have to know what it is. How to go about it? Dude, do you trust her? For this moment, at least. Someone's unhappy and slammed their door. Guess who's coming? Never mind. We're staying. Talk to her mom. There's an awkward silence at the table for a while after Emmy dashes off. I can't think of anything to say. Emmy's mother sighs, breaking the silence. Sorry about that, Hisao. I sometimes forget that Emmy's touchy about certain subjects. And I was talking about the wheelchair thing, too. Should I go after her? Heavens no, she didn't leave the table to continue the conversation, you know. But if she's troubled, shouldn't someone help her? If it were anyone else, I'd say yes, but my daughter is stubborn as a mule, and if she wants to be alone, it's best to let her be alone. Otherwise, she'll probably say something she'd regret, which would cause you to say something you'd regret, and I would prefer that dinner doesn't end with one or the other of you storming out of the house. If that were to happen, I'd be a terrible hostess, wouldn't I? I've already acted as a fool once today. That's okay. I shouldn't have brought up the wheelchair, apparently. Mrs. Ibarazaki frowns, clearly more bothered by Emmy's admission than she'd let on. I wish she wouldn't do that. It just makes me worry more, you know? She does this often? What, running off to the bathroom? No, I can't say she does. Keeping injuries from her mother, though. Well, that's a little more common. Every time I catch her lying like that, she assures me that the only reason she didn't tell me is because it wasn't a big deal. If it's any consolation, I'm sure the only reason I knew about it at all was because I saw her every day. This elicits a dry chuckle from across the table. Mrs. Ibarazaki sighs, a little sadly. Still hesitant about getting close to people, huh? I keep hoping that she'll get over that. It's funny, really. She's bounced back so well from the accident in so many ways. I guess some things never really go away. From the looks of it, the whole thing still bothers her, too. She seems to be a little more willing to talk about the accident without Emmy around, though. Hey, I've got a question if that's alright. Oh? What else did Emmy lose in that accident? The nurse said that she gets this way near the anniversary and she won't talk about it to me. So you thought I'd fill you in, yeah, hopefully. Well, there's a problem with that request, you know. Let me guess, you promised Emmy that you wouldn't tell anyone she didn't want to know, and you don't know if she wants me to know? Something like that. I promised Emmy that she'd be the one to tell people the full story. But isn't that important? I mean, it's clearly had a huge effect on her if she's still like this so long after the accident happened. That's true. It did have a long-lasting effect on her. There are a few things that she'll probably never really get over. For a moment, Miss Ibarazaki looks incredibly saddened, as if an old wound is bothering her. I suppose there are a few things I'll never really get over either. Another dry chuckle, and with a shake of her head, Emmy's mother banishes the memory. Look, there's something you absolutely must understand about the way Emmy thinks about the accident. What's that? It wasn't a big deal. Somehow I managed to keep my mouth from falling open in surprise, but it takes some effort. This has to be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I beg your pardon? Okay, maybe it's not that simple, but it's a pretty accurate summation. Emmy believes that the accident did not define her, and that everything she lost that day didn't define her either. She's not that girl who lost her legs. She's the fastest thing on no legs. Her optimism and energy came out of that wreck without a scratch, as far as she's concerned. Yet it only goes beyond that, doesn't it? I mean, last night she told me that she refused to rely on me because it would make losing me too painful. Not really. You said she won't tell you about the accident even though you've asked her about it before. The reason she won't talk about it when you ask is because to her it's not something you absolutely need to know. Even if she wasn't terrified of getting too close to anyone, she still wouldn't talk about it. She's afraid of being close to me. Oh goodness me, yes. For all that talk about being unscathed by the accident, she's gained the ugly knowledge of how quickly it can all be over. She's not going to let people get especially close to her, and she certainly would resent any implication that she cannot work through this on her own. But I don't think she can. Oh no. Are you sure you've been dating my daughter, not somebody else? Trust me, Hisao. She could get through it on her own. But she has these nightmares and can't sleep well, and she does this every year. Tell me, if she wasn't able to get through it on her own, do you really think she'd still be alive? She would have killed herself, or something equally melodramatic. You are being very chipper about all this. So what, I shouldn't try to help her? I didn't say that. I hate seeing my daughter like this, and knowing that she could rely on someone else would let me relax. You just need to understand that accepting help goes against everything Emmy thinks about herself, and the way the world works. If you still want to offer her help, then I guess that's your call. Honestly, I like you too, but it'd be silly not to warn you that it's not going to be that easy. You just need to be patient with her. She's already closer to you than anyone she's ever met at Yamaku. Well, it sure doesn't feel like we're very close. Good. That makes this part easier. Emmy's voice nearly gives me a heart attack. Whoa. Didn't hear you come back, Emmy. How convenient. Wait, were you eavesdropping? Nope, just happened to come back at the right moment, I guess. Emmy, Hisao was just... Emmy holds up a finger, cutting her mother off. On his way out of the house? Yeah, I know. Emmy's trembling with anger now, looking vaguely betrayed. Emmy, don't be ridiculous, we were just... You promised. The pain carried in the last word is almost too much for me to bear. The idea that I could hurt her that much is like being kicked in the gut. Emmy's mother looks similarly pained by the thought. And I kept that promise. Just listen, there's no reason to go throwing people out of the house. Emmy's mother seems to be both angry at her daughter's outburst and embarrassed that I'm a witness to it. There's only one real solution to this problem, I think. It's okay, I'll go. No, now really, that seems a little unnecessary. Don't worry about it. Thank you for dinner, Miss Ibarasaki, and for the advice. It was my pleasure, Hisao. I'm sorry we didn't get to the dessert. That's okay. I have to watch what I eat anyway. Good evening, Emmy, Mrs. Ibarasaki. The formality of our conversation, coupled with the fact that I'm getting ready to leave, seems to snap Emmy out of her anger. Okay, guys, I'm gonna end it here. So, yeah. Lots of stuff is happening, or just started to happen. So, we'll see all that next time. Thanks for watching.